Vocational education and training is a key instrument liaising education, work, and social and economic development. Its main purpose is to ease young people and adults' employment opportunities and lifelong learning. Since 2015, AHLEI's divisions of Social Development, Gender Affairs, and Economic Development, with the support of Norway's cooperation, have been working on this subject with a regional perspective. Over this period, a series of analytical studies have been published, and several technical assistances have been carried out. Moreover, policy dialogue has been promoted through seminars and workshops and participation in a variety of discussion forums. Strengthening the quality of technical vocational education and training systems is essential to successful school-to-work transitions and upward career paths. How do we achieve this? The work of the project has identified these key areas to achieve this goal. 1. Promoting trajectories of young people from secondary technical education to higher-level technical education, and from non-formal educational training towards both levels of formal technical education. 2. Improving the link between the technical vocational education and training system and the productive sector through the identification of skills, demands, and strengthening gender-sensitive labor market information and employment services systems. 3. Taking advantage of the technological revolution for the present and future of work, anticipating its associated challenges. 4. Facing inequalities and gender biases in the educational offer, career choices, and employability. Promoting education, work-life balance, and training staff and students on gender equality issues. 5. Enhance social and labor inclusion and capacity building to expand the participation of the breadth of the population in the benefits of development, recognizing gaps caused by socioeconomic status, gender, ethno-racial status, age, and geographic location. 6. Generating interinstitutional coordination mechanisms and representation of relevant actors, as well as instruments to certify competencies and training evaluation and assessment. 7. Fostering institutional links between public and private training providers and generating synergies among them. 8. Identifying new source of funding, building on the efforts of subnational governments and collaboration with the private sector. To move towards an inclusive development that tackles social and gender inequalities, eliminates poverty, and consolidates economic, social, and cultural rights for all of the population of Latin America and the Caribbean, it is fundamental that technical and vocational education and training systems support the development of competencies that are key for the exercise of responsible citizenship and continuous learning in a dynamic and increasingly technologized labor market.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our TVET conference. We will continue to explore the various strands, looking at new and emerging jobs, access and inclusion, youth empowerment, and entrepreneurship. I hope you found yesterday insightful, and that the themes, the ideas that were explored are themes that and integrate in our TVET system. We look forward to another day of rich discussions and deliberations. Our target group is quite varied. As you're aware, we have persons from the Caribbean, persons from various countries, the USA, Canada, and we are expecting delegates from Nigeria later on today. And with us today, we have from the JCTI, and taking us through that will be Miss Carol Rose Brown. So as soon as we have per, which is customary, we are going to start with that. And we will ask Miss Jodine Williams from CXC to just bless our souls, we will hand over to Miss Carol Rose Brown, who will take us through the session for this morning.
Good morning, colleagues. May I invite you to stand and bow your heads with me as we pray. Our Father and our God, we are grateful to you for life. We are indeed grateful to you for the opportunity to speak with you directly. We feel honored and we feel truly blessed. As we come together as educators from across the world, talking about TVET in this region and in the world, and the impact it will have on the lives of your people, we ask that you will inspire us. We ask that you will enable us to achieve the objectives of this conference. We pray, God, that you will bless us individually and collectively, and send your angels to protect us here and where our families dwell. And we ask that when you shall come, that you will save us for your eternal kingdom. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Okay. While it's really Dr. Carey Wallace, Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, who will be coming to us. But I just want to pause to welcome Dr. Cecil Cornwall from the Western Hospitality Institute and Chair of the Technical Working Committee of the CAP program. Dr. Cornwall is very passionate about skills in the area of hospitality in particular, and we are really delighted to have you with us today, Dr. Cornwall. I'll now hand over to Dr. Carey Wallace, Executive Director, the Tourism Enhancement Fund.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here bright and early on a public holiday. Do you have Labor Day in the other islands, or is it just a Jamaican thing? So for those who don't know, Labor Day is actually a public holiday where we stay away from work in order to work. We go and we do mostly voluntary efforts to paint schools and pedestrian crossings and libraries and post offices and so on. Beaches, that may be tweaking it a bit. But I thank you for the sacrifice of being here. And I myself am working deliberately because it's such an important conference, and we are at such an important, what I call, tipping point here in particularly Jamaica. A tipping point meaning we are on the cusp of really getting to that developing rate and that pace where we can see the end of becoming an actual developed nation. The kind of opportunities that are being presented to us as a nation, as a region, I might add, is growing exponentially. And I speak primarily of tourism because the digital revolution has provided access to the entire planet to see this phenomenal gold that we have in the Caribbean. The gold meaning the powder white sand beaches. The gold meaning the culture of our extremely exuberant people. The gold of having mountains, rivers, valleys, waterfalls, music, cuisine, all that you can think of. Before the digital revolution, it was difficult for us to showcase that to the world, to our markets, far and wide. Now with social media, now with multiple windows to the world, then we are now exposing all that is great about us. And what that is doing, particularly for Jamaica, is it's creating exponential growth in our industry. It took the first 40 years of Jamaica being in tourism to earn the first $1 billion. 40 years it took before that 1 year we earned $1 billion. It took 17 years for us to go from 1 billion US to 2 billion US in earnings. In the year 2019, we earned $1 billion US in the first 3 months and 1 day. That's the level of growth. I would clap for that, but but what is also happening is that we're seeing two developments. One on the mainstream tourism side, which is large hotels, mass tourism. I hope I'm being forgiven for those who provide that service. But the idea is large volume tourism. That is growing in a way where it's becoming commoditized. Commoditized meaning the investors are no longer Jamaican-owned or Caribbean-owned family members. It used to be Sandals, super clubs, couples, and so on, Jamaican-owned properties. Now the majority of properties are owned by international investors. In fact, it's going even further. They are now having investments out of Wall Street. So it's just persons who are just, all they're interested in is the return on their investment, not caring about who they hire, not caring about who provides the supplies to the hotels. It's just about efficiencies. On the other side, we see growth in the experiential traveler, the Airbnbs. And countries like Jamaica, or all the countries in the Caribbean for that matter, where we've been so blessed to have so much diversity of offerings, mountains, rivers, valleys, beaches, waterfalls, you name it, you can have a phenomenal experience right across the length and breadth of the islands. And that opens up an opportunity for this smallest of persons living in the remotest of places to now have an opportunity to get a piece of a tourism pie. Phenomenal time to be alive, I believe. And so when we look at the first part, the mainstream tourism, that is growing. And when we look at the experiential tourism, that is growing. Why are we so blessed? Everything is booming. And I'm the only one smiling. But I'm hoping I'm sharing with you the opportunity that we have here. On the mainstream side, it is making sure our people are the ones benefiting from that growth. On the experiential side, surely, and that's easier, it will more than likely be our people because we are so much a part of that experience. But we have to develop the entrepreneurial spirit. We have to show them the opportunities that they have on the experiential side. On the mainstream side, that's why we're having this conference, to upskill our people so that they can get the positions in the accommodation sector, in the attraction sector. These are the emerging opportunities, the new and emerging opportunities that we speak of. Because it's a return on investment focused, a commoditization, it therefore means may the best man win, or woman, let me be politically correct. Basically, it's no protectionism. We don't say, oh, we're going to stop giving work permits, and so you have to hire our Jamaican or Caribbean person in the top positions. We're competing in a global market. They're just going to say, who is the best person to fill this position? They're not caring about skin color. They're not caring about background. They're just, are you qualified? Are you certified? Do you have the skill set? And if you do, and you don't have the relocation cost, so it ends up being a better decision, a better financial decision to hire you, then we will do so. So the Ministry of Tourism recognizes that, and we've been doing a tremendous amount of work, and we have a lot of the partners here at the head table with us who will be speaking to you on the topic of outfitting our people to benefit from these emerging trends that we have here. And I know I've spoken probably more than the time that I should have taken. I should have just quickly gone through and introduced them. And to my immediate left is Ms. Carol Rose Brown, who is the head of the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation. And that is the department within the Tourism Enhancement Fund that is responsible for rolling out these programs that certify the tourism workers to be able to take these top positions that I speak of. And she will go through more. But for now, let's just give her a round of applause, please. No, there are some other names that I'm going to struggle with the pronunciation, so I do. There's CC to Carl Rose Brown's left. He goes by CC because he's had this problem before, I'm sure, of persons struggling to pronounce his name. I'm going to ask you when you come up to actually say it so that we all have it as well. And then Moira McKarracher, see, is a senior private sector specialist, markets, technology, finance, competitiveness, and innovation, global practice in the World Bank. Let's give her a round of applause, please. So. Next, I did pass Jeremy. So before Moira is Jeremy. He's a director, Jeremy Abbey. He's the director of culinary programs at the ACF, the American Culinary Federation. Jeremy. And to the end is Giselle Jones. Giselle is also head of a department in the Tourism Enhancement Fund, which is responsible for research and risks. And that really is looking at big data, data and analytics to make sure that as a ministry, we are taking advantage of all this new information that the digital revolution has provided. You know that right now, because you have your cell phones on your there are others who can know exactly where you are and what you're doing and what you're liking. And it's a bit of others playing God, and it can be a bit of an intrusion to our privacy. Nevertheless, it is information, and the world is in that era now where that information is available. Marketers use it, corporations use it, and we believe being responsible for, in particular, Jamaica's growth in tourism, it makes sense that we invest in getting that information as well so that it guides our decision making. We're more guaranteed that everything that we invest in is going to work because we've done the data analytics to drive that decision. So Giselle heads that. Let's give her a round of applause, please. And so what I will do is invite Carol Rose Brown to come forward and give her presentation. Please make her feel welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. This morning, I want to talk to you about TVET and tourism. As Dr. Wallace set out for us, tourism is the business of our region. It is how we earn a living. Also, hoteliers know that without the workers, they have nothing to sell. People don't come to the Caribbean to live in their beautiful rooms, nor do the bankers, nor do the investors make the tourism product the thing that people want to buy. There's a woman out there working in the housekeeping department of a hotel. She has done so for over 20 years. She has no tenure, and she can only make a weak case for a raise. And that is because she has no certification. There's also a young man out there doing a degree in culinary arts, and he's looking for a job in a hotel or in a restaurant. But the thing is that he will not be able to get that job because his academic degree is not sufficient. These are not unique problems. There are 14 colleges in Jamaica delivering hospitality, tourism, and culinary arts, some combination of all those. Indeed, many of them are delivering master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, associate degrees, but they do not provide for certification. Indeed, when government started the conversation about where do we go in respect of human capital development, one of the options was to open a tourism school. And the decision was no. The decision was to pursue a strategy to facilitate certification that would include college students, recent college graduates, and most importantly, the persons who work in the sector. Certification is the path to professionalism. Internationally benchmarked certification is the way we believe the tourism professions can be taken seriously. In every other profession, the veterans lay out the specific knowledge and skills that are required. They set out the terms and conditions under which this expertise is to be learned. Oh, my clicker is, yeah, okay. And we must, in tourism, embrace certification. In fact, in our region, because tourism is how we earn a living, we need to embrace certification in tourism professions. Vocational education enables workers to compete in this changing world. It is the list of skills you have, the specific things you know how to do, that makes you marketable. Doctors do this. Doctors do TVET. A bachelor's degree in medicine does not make you a doctor. You have to agree to spend years as an intern under the tutelage of a certified physician. Nurses do this. A bachelor's degree in nursing does not make you a nurse. You have to agree to take the exams of your local nursing council, and you have to pass the exams at the percentage they decide. Lawyers, plumbers, accountants, electricians, taxi cab drivers in England have to pass an exam. This is because they take themselves seriously and they want to be taken seriously. We must embrace certification in tourism because, and I'm repeating this is how our region earns a living. Which brings me to the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation. The JCTI was established in late 2017 as the government's human capital development, the organization responsible for rolling out the government's human capital development strategy, which was one of the 5 pillars on which our tourism product, our tourism industry was to be built. The other 4 pillars were the new products, new partnerships, new investments, and new markets. We began the discussion of JCTI by understanding that we needed partners to do this. And we needed partners because, as far as we were concerned, there are 3 main objectives of the Human Capital Development Agenda. One was to facilitate the certification of students in hospitality, tourism, and culinary arts. The second was to facilitate the certification of workers in the tourism industry. And the third goal was to facilitate the certification of faculty who are delivering hospitality, tourism, and culinary arts. We also realized that we needed partners. And in Jamaica, we have local partners. Our local partners are the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, which is the local association of hoteliers, owners of hotels and attractions. Another local partner is HEART. HEART is important here. HEART delivers certification levels 1, 2, and 3 in a number of skill areas. Of course, tourism is one of them. The HEART College of Hospitality Services is an important part of our scheme. Our partner is also TVET, because all of the certification programs we offer are aligned with TVET qualifications. We are also partnering with the Ministry of Education, because one of the things that we are interested in doing is to ensure that the young people in high school begin to take tourism as a career opportunity seriously. And so we have programs available in high schools across Jamaica. Another of our partners is the Joint Committee on Tertiary Education. I see Dr. Cornell is smiling. That is important because that is a local association of colleges and universities, and of course we need the JCTE to have access to students, but also faculty, because the faculty in these colleges are our first resource for providing tutors. We also have a private sector partner. One of our important private sector partners is J. Nephew, the makers of our famous rum, and now owned by Campari. We're working with them to roll out bartender certification, because we understand that a big part of the reason why many people come is to have our rum. And we want to make sure that people are consuming alcohol responsibly, and that these young persons who are bartenders know what they're doing and understand how they then use this starting position as a way to move up in the organization. We also have international partners. Among our most important international partners is the American Culinary Federation. They work with us to facilitate culinary certification in the culinary arts, all the way up the kitchen brigade, from certified culinarian to executive chef. We also work with the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute, which again helps us provide certification in hospitality and tourism areas. We work with the Smith Tourism Research to provide certification in data analytics. Dr. Wallace spoke earlier about the fact that we are conscious of the impact of big data on tourism and how that is going to be driving decision-making. And interestingly, our final partner, international partner, is the Instituto Cervantes. We're partnering with the Instituto Cervantes to roll out Spanish language certification. And you're thinking, why? Many of our hotel partners are Spanish, as Dr. Wallace pointed out. In order to make it into the management cadre of these hotel organizations, you need to be fluent in Spanish. They're not going to stop to translate for you. And so we want to ensure that every single person who is in the hotel in a management position understands and appreciates and speaks fluently Spanish. Minister Bartlett, who, by the way, is the acknowledged best tourism minister on the planet, is not an opinion. He reminds us that tourism is delivered by people. It's his constant sentence. In our ministry, therefore, we take it as an important task to ensure that the workers in our industry understand that they are terribly important to us. Oops. Yeah. And it so happens that I get to make this presentation in the same year when the 2018 Tourism Service Provider winner is a gentleman called Conroy Thompson, who is a trainer at the Half Moon Hotel. And interestingly, Half Moon Hotel went on to be the winner of the institutional prize. That is important to me because it says that we're finally moving in the right direction, that people are beginning to understand about the importance of preparing the people to really benefit from tourism. I should spend a minute talking about what we have accomplished since early 2018. We have certified 82 tutors in culinary, hospitality, bartending certification. We have brought to certification 63 candidates in culinary arts. We have certified 115 hospitality supervisors. 620 bartenders have thus far been certified. And we have certified 52 persons in hospitality analytics. This, we think, is a good start. And as Dr. Wallace mentioned, the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation is a significant part of the Ministry of Tourism inside of the Tourism Enhancement Fund. And we have embraced this responsibility for certification. And because we work for Ed Bartlett, failure is not an option, so we press on. In addition to that population of persons, I should mention that there are 60 tourism workers who are taking Spanish language certification exams tomorrow, by the way. And we have over 1,100 young people in high school programs doing tourism, customer service, tourism, hospitality management programs. And as we speak, my recruitment manager tells me that we have about 150 people who are lined up waiting for us to do certification programs in culinary hospitality, hospitality supervision and management. I can't leave you without mentioning something about the cost of certification. Certification is very expensive. There are a lot of moving parts. You have to pay tutors, you have to get material in, and it's not just your material, it's the material that belongs to your partners, it has to be paid for. Our shipping bill for one shipment is $10,000 US. That is we have to buy a manual for every candidate. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have a choice here. And we want to encourage our partners to make the point that many of the companies we're working with are spending money on programs providing certificates of participation to many people. And these certificates of participation are not cheap. So we really want to make the point that we're spending the money. Let us spend the money on real certification. Give the money to TVET organizations and give the money to the JCTI so we can facilitate certification, because these things are internationally recognized, and when you leave here, it means something. Certificate of participation, not so much. Finally, let me close by inviting you, as Minister Bartlett did yesterday, to join us to see an actual certification in process. Jeremy Abbey, who is here, is actually here for two reasons. One, we are certifying about 43 candidates this very week in Kingston, St. Anne, and Montego Bay. And the Montego Bay examinations start today and go through tomorrow. And we'd love for you to come and look to see what a certification exercise looks like. And we'd also like to take the opportunity to say to you, we want to see certification expanded in the region. We want to partner with persons from across the region to share with you the materials we have developed, to give you access to the discounts we have with our partners, and to ensure that this business that pays our bills, that provides us with hospitals and schools and roads and electricity, provides for us the best possible return on our investment. That is to say, certification in tourism, certification through TVET. I know that all of us believe, in this room, believe in TVET, but we're a small group. I want us to keep the faith. I want us to collaborate more. And I want us to continue to encourage each other to do what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Rose Brown, very comprehensive, and I hope you were inspired by the work that the JCTI has been doing and is continuing to do. We will quickly go into the next presenter, who we know as CC, but he'll do a bit more introduction when he comes here. But he is the Vice President of Sales for the Americas for the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute, the AHLEI, that Carol was mentioned, is one of a key international partner with the JCTI. So I give to you CC.
Good morning. So the name is not that difficult. No, it's Cuauhtemoc. Cuauhtemoc. Is that difficult? So before we start, I want to tell you also that I lived in Trelawney for about a year. So, you know, I always say I'm quarter Mexican, quarter American, and quarter Jamaican. Really, really love coming back here, been bugging Ms. Brown for ginger beer since I arrived here, and still don't got it. Was not available in Iberostar, not available in Hilton, but it's available in the streets. I think one of the things I'm going to talk about is the importance of the professional certifications. And I'm going to talk a little more in detail of the things that Ms. Brown was talking about in relationship of the certification in hospitality. Let me see if So, before we go, the Educational Institute was conceived as the arm of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. This association is an association that has been around for about 100 years plus. And the one thing that is very important about this association is that everything that the association cares about is about the industry and for the industry. We're not that clever. We haven't invented all these things. These are the things that the industry has asked us to do in regards of policy making, in regards of training and certifications, in regards of many things that associations do to keep the industry growing. And as you know, the industry has grown tremendously. The Educational Institute actually was born to be the arm of training and certification of the association. So everything that we have developed as educational content and certification has been because the industry has asked us for it, and we developed that because the industry gave us the input. So our mission was that, to become that premier source of educational content. And one thing that Ms. Brown said is that training, development, certification equals to employability in the hospitality industry. This is a chart that is pretty busy, but it was done that intentionally. You can probably not see the numbers, but the one thing that is extremely important is that in 2014, the association made a survey about how many people in the general management position of a hotel started from the beginning. It was actually 50%. I mean, most of the people that actually in the United States have a GM title didn't even study hospitality. So we talk about the second chances, right? The second opportunities that we have for the people who are working now in hospitality. So the career path that hospitality brings, it's amazing. It's just really amazing. Most of the GMs started as concierge, as guest service, as bell people, really at the entry level. But it was because of the certifications that people actually can certify the first competency and then keep growing, and then can grow more. So I'm going to show you a couple of more slides that actually show that critical path to go in career development. I think important to say is that now many organizations are saying that 10% of the employment in the world is due to hospitality. It's a little bit less than 10%, but it's a very, very high number. And I think in all our countries in the Caribbean, it's actually bigger. Here in Jamaica, I'm saying we because I live here and I experience the growth too. The growth that we have is because our people have been certified. Our people are happy, friendly, full of hope. But everybody's human. We have traffic, we have husbands and wives, kids, especially kids. So then we get to work and it's like we're not as happy. We have tension. My son didn't do the homework, didn't do this, etc. So when we come back to work, we actually have our meetings, and then we remember that the most important part of hospitality, of the language of good treatment, it doesn't start with the letter A. Start with the word empathy. Right? So this is the industry. It's not the industry of service, it's the industry of good treatment. Because when we go and travel somewhere, we're expected to be treated correctly, right? We are expecting, because if we put ourselves in the shoes of the travelers that are coming from somewhere in Canada, all the way in the West Coast, they probably travel several hours, maybe 10, 11 hours to come to the Caribbean. They're tired. They have kids running and crying and yelling and want to have to go to the beach. So it's very important that we put ourselves in their shoes and really give them that level of hospitality. And I tell you something, guest service, an excellent guest service, brings much more repeatable stays in our hotels and our places than miles, than points, reward systems. And seriously, just ask yourself, why do you come back to that restaurant? Why do you come back to that place? And it's not so much of the miles. I travel with American Airlines, but I try to avoid it as much as humanly possible. Because quite frankly, JetBlue is so much better. They're quick, easy, friendly. They give you unlimited snacks. You want something else? Sure, here's the can. Here's another can. Here's another chips. American Airlines, you want something? God bless American Airlines too. But seriously, you know, that good treatment, when people come in the mornings and we talk about empathy, inclusion, follow-up, and all the elements of the language of good treatment, then our people are happy delivering this kind of excellent service. Some people have said, take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers. So that's one thing that is extremely important. Enough of the poetry. So, if we, this is a some data that I got, and only if you see the reasons of why people didn't come back, 15% of the reason is bad treatment. The other percentages is that they didn't come back to the city, and I'm sorry, it's in Spanish at the bottom. They didn't come back to the city. It was just because of the bucket list. But really, most of the people that don't come back is because they had some kind of a bad experience. Now we call it the experience, the stay, the memories, you know. But they had a bad time. So these are the distinctives of professional certifications. But one thing that professional certifications said about people is about their character. A certification, as Ms. Brown just said, is not a certificate of completion. You gotta take the training, study for the exam, and take the exam with a proctor. This is not given. This is something that you have to earn, because it's a certification of your competency. And that shows people the kind of character that that person has. Is that person who wants to keep on growing. The results are very, very easy. I think that the average daily rate increases, guest satisfaction increases, but again, the most important asset is our people. And when this happens, the morale of our people grows tremendously. So many companies have told us in the past, we don't really want to certify the people because they're going to leave us. A year later, they say, the best thing we did is certify them. Why? They're not wearing the T-shirt. They're not wearing the colors. They have tattooed themselves their colors. They want to stay here because they're knowing that the company cares about them and there is a path of growth for them. So that's the one thing that is extremely important to notice. If I show you another busy slide, this is the path of career growth. It starts in the entry level, grows to a supervisory level, managerial level, head department level or director, and goes all the way to executive. And I must tell you this, the first certification of Guest Service Gold is quite simple. The certification of the hotel administrator is extremely difficult. I mean, you have accounting, you have operations, you have human resources, and these are tests. So these are not, again, certificates of completion, but it's certificates of competencies. When you complete the certification, you will receive a pin and a diploma that has the name of the person. It doesn't have the name of the company. And this is one of the things that we have actually found out that is a tremendous distinction for the people, not for our company, but for the people. We work with all of the hotel chains in the world, and some of them, you have seen them as tremendous ambassadors of the good treatment, including a local company here, Sandals, that to me, not because I'm a little bit Jamaican, but they actually deliver a tremendous service. People just come back. Their occupancies are through the roof in places that are very difficult and expensive to get. But those 95% of occupancies, everybody else would want to have them. And some of them says that probably is the most profitable resort chain in the Caribbean. I don't know, I haven't seen the books. So, a quick example, for example, the career growth. If somebody starts at the beginning as a guest service, they can actually, the next thing that they can do is front desk, for example. Once they're very, very thorough in that competency and actually can prove that they can be certified at that competency, they may be eligible for the next competency, which is a supervisor. And then they could be eligible to the next competency, which is the executive of the room divisions, for example. This is not going to take a few months. It's going to take a couple of years or something. But this is not very difficult. This is people who are paying attention at work, seeing what's going on, getting trained, being curious about their competencies, and later on they will be spot to be that room divisions director. And later on they can actually be the manager of the resort. So the growth path is there. The general manager, that pin, that little thing that you see there, is actually a ruby. You actually have to take 9 exams to take that certification, but it's the most desirable certification that exists in the hospitality industry. This is the easiest certification, but this is the certification that makes me the proudest of this company. We have actually developed a jewel in guest service. That language of treatment, with inclusion, with empathy, with all the pillars that go with how our people get inspired to give that extra mile, to become that champion, that person who runs on the parkway because somebody left a little bag. Those little details count a lot. And just ask to the people who go to Disney, and they have these little moments, just perfectly timed all the time. And what does your kids tell you? Where we go to the next vacation, and they will cry and scream, just give me to Disney. And we'll come back to Disney. This is something that you guys have seen many, many times, but we believe that success, or your income, at times more important, it's totally directly related to the amount of people that you possibly impact because of your work. Does everybody agree with that? And lastly, everything starts with the trainers. This is a slide that I stole from Ms. Brown in Chicago. I didn't make this one. The trainers are the ambassadors of the dissemination of knowledge. They are the ambassadors of this positive impact. They are in charge of the transfer of knowledge, the transfer of training, the transfer of the importance of professional certifications, but most importantly, for the transformation of people. Thank you very much.
Well done, Cuauhtemoc. How did I do? Very close, he said. All right, great. And another of our international partners will be coming forward now from the American Culinary Federation, the Director of Culinary Programs. I give you Jeremy Abbey.
Good morning. How is everyone? You'll have to excuse my attire and my speedy escape after this brief presentation, as I have to run to some practical exams and act as an evaluator over there. I don't have many slides, as a lot of these slides are repetitive of everything you've heard already about the benefits of certification and everything we do. So I do have, if we can get this to work, a video. Maybe. Oh. Let's see if this will work. It's promising. Wake you up a little bit. Little bass beat in there, you know. I don't even think I'm controlling this. Down? Down arrow? Is that it? Oh, I'm so confused. All right. So, the American Culinary Federation, we have this really cool system of certification, and our primary goal in the U.S. since 1929 is we celebrate our 90th year celebration and 40th year of certifying cooks and chefs in America. Our goal really is to standardize the benchmark, the skills, the knowledge, and protect the craft of culinary arts in the United States. If you think of the global food culture, the U.S. is extremely young. In 1973, our government actually recognized the term chef as a profession. Prior to that, we were domestic servants. Kind of interesting. It's a little bit familiar to what's happening with tourism in Jamaica, where just recently it was actually acknowledged as an actual industry and all the multiple facets of that. But everybody knows food is the most important, right? Okay, at least in my profession. You know, food really is that human connection. You know, hospitality, tourism, you go to a hotel, all of it is that human connection that makes a difference. But there's something even greater when it comes to sitting down and sharing a meal, and the skills and knowledge of the person cooking that meal. And some of the best experiences you have is by that young culinarian or old culinarian behind the buffet line carving that delicious suckling pig for you at a buffet line. And if they're miserable in their employment, and if they're not happy because of the pressures of the outside world and they're not getting taken care of at their job, it's not an enjoyable experience. They just sit there and say, "You want some?" If they enjoy their job and they're happy to be there, they'll engage in that customer and create that moment of connectivity. That moment of connectivity makes a difference to that guest no matter where they are. All of a sudden, the chef is no longer stuck in the kitchen. The cook is no longer in the kitchen. We're seeing a shift in our industry where, you know, thanks to television, thanks to Netflix and Food Network, everybody wants to be a chef. Nobody knows that as I leave from here, oh, you get to go to Jamaica again for 16, 18 hours a day in a kitchen, working because I love it. You know, yes, this is my job to certify cooks and chefs, but I love this industry. Nothing is more exciting to me than what's happening in Jamaica right now. As we see this program grow, when Carol Rose Brown came to me in 2017 and we got her into St. Augustine, Florida, and talked about it, that human connection, that human capital development sparked the interest. And since then, and I think it was 18 or the end of 17, when we did the pilot program here, it was awesome to watch those cooks earn a certification and to see it continue to grow to where we are today. You can read. This is stolen from our website. The benefits of certification, you're here for it, right? The thing I find as a director of culinary programs, I run the certification program, I also run the apprenticeship program for the American Culinary Federation. And through that, we find that there is that disconnect of knowledge out there in the marketplace from a certificate, a diploma, a degree, and a certification. What is a certification? It's a third-party program. And that's what the American Culinary Federation is. We have a ton of research, we analyze the industry, we get subject matter experts to determine what is the baseline skills, knowledge, and competencies for that level of certification. And then we don't care where you get your education, we don't care where you get your work experience. What we're going to do is validate it, verify it, and let you eligible for the exams. Once you're eligible from the exams, yes, there is a written component, but the ACF actually makes you cook. That means something. There's a reason JCTI came to us. There's a reason we continually get international interest to our certification. Our platform makes the candidates cook food, and then it's tasted and evaluated by 3 trained evaluators. And last night, we did an evaluator training for actual Jamaicans on the island. So it's continuing to grow. And they came to us because they were in the pilot program. The chef at this hotel is now a certified executive chef, who we then, last night, started the training process for him to become an approved evaluator. That's awesome. He came to us. We didn't seek him because there's that Jamaican term, it's catch a fire. This thing has exploded. I had a meeting last week, days ago, in Chicago with the Trinidad and Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association, I believe. Brain's a little swimming. One of the other cool things that we do real quick is we offer 16 levels of certification. And that goes up the line from the culinary savory side, up the line on the pastry side. We also have certified culinary administrator, certified culinary educators. And then the creme de la creme, the certified master chef and master pastry chef. And I'm still plugging for the first Jamaican certified master chef. In the US, we only have 68 certified master chefs. The wonderful thing about ACF certification is our certification program is accredited through the NCCA. The National Certifying Commission Agency is the same group in the United States that certifies the nursing profession, that certifies the physician profession, and those licenses opposed to certifications. We are used in our practical assessments by their company to train people how to develop practical exams. Talk about an honor. I was amazed when I learned that one. We run the whole program through that. 4 of our levels are actually accredited, but that just means we just run the whole thing through it, because who wants to recreate systems for different things, right? One system, one program. 4 steps. They're easy 4 steps. Determining the eligibility based on the education and the work experience. If you don't have work experience, how can you become certified as a sous chef, a chef de cuisine, an executive pastry chef, or a master pastry chef? There's no way to do it. You need a baseline education, and those are spelled out by our certification commission. From there, you become pre-approved by submitting all those documents. Again, we don't care where you come from in your education. We don't care if you have any education. There's alternate sources through technology today that you can get your education online. We encourage that. That's the best thing about it. The culinary profession, yeah, we're not the all-stars in the social world. We'll take all of your disenfranchised, all of your alternative lifestyles that are out there in the world today. That's what we do because people love the industry, and it's a skill set that you can learn and develop on the job and through technical education. You take the written exam, you take the practical exam, you submit the final application. Working with JCTI, we've developed an incredible system down here that streamlines it and makes it as easy on the candidate as possible. Because I would say step 3 is a little bit scary for that candidate. They don't want to sit there and worry about collecting, making sure they have X, Y, and Z. So Ms. Rose Brown's team has really developed great systems to align with all the awesome TVET certifications here, where we try to streamline that process. And we come in, and if a candidate is qualified, they test for the written and the practical exams. Really, that buzz term of improving human capital through skill development and certification. It's incredible what's happened down here. 2 weeks ago, it seems like every holiday I'm in Jamaica. It was over the Easter holiday. We had a group from Hart that came through and began the process of certified culinary educators on the island. And so to see that through that process of them getting certified at an entry level and then advancing that certification and building the skill sets necessary for these certifications, you see the snowball effect of what skill development can do. You see the pride in those workers, those students, when we tell them they've successfully passed, they stand up a little taller. You know, that's a skill that goes on. I hear it all over the world. If we get them certified, they're going to leave. Whose fault is that? That's the operator for not taking care of that employee. That's the operator for not investing in their systems to make that employee want to stay. And so I always say, well, let them go. Because what they're going to do is they're going to come back. And they're going to do wonderful things in their own communities, in their own little areas of the world, and make an impact in themselves and the people around them. That's the end of my presentation. I have business cards that are out on the JCTI table if you want to get a hold of me. I encourage you to come over in the afternoon to see what it's all about and to really get to know we have a mix of American and Jamaican evaluators. There are 2 approved certification evaluators on the island. One is at another resort on this side, and one is an educator. And it's a great system that continues to grow. And if you want to know more about ACF's culinary certification, I'll be happy to help you. Thank you all very much.
And I hope you feel confident in all the programs that we are rolling out to make sure our people are acquiring the necessary skill sets and certification to take and eat the pie of tourism, especially. We now go to a presentation from the World Bank. We have the Senior Private Sector Specialist, Markets and Technology, Finance and Skills, Competitiveness and Innovation. It's a mouthful, but I ask you to put your hands together to welcome Moira McKarracher. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I'd like to thank Dr. Wallace, Ms. Brown and Ms. Jones from Tourism Enhancement Fund for inviting me here. Is that better? Yeah. For inviting me here for my first visit to Jamaica. It's great to be here. Thank you. I certainly hope to come back. I'm based in Washington, D.C. at the moment, but I come from the UK, Scotland to be specific, and we tour, we're a small country, but we're very proud of our natural resources, the beautiful lochs, mountains, woods, and so on. Just the weather is a little different from Jamaica, but apart from that, lots in common. Whoa. So I'm going to zoom out a little from what we've heard and give you a bit of a global view of the way that jobs are changing. We heard some of this yesterday, and the impact that's having on the skills that people need, and then relating that particularly to the tourism sector. I'm drawing a lot from this report. It's the World Development Report. The World Bank produces one every year, and for 2019 it was on the changing nature of work. And I understand that you have copies of the summary of that report in your packs. So it's also available online should you wish to delve into the detail. But it presents quite an interesting picture. So we know that automation is taking over thousands of routine tasks, and it will eliminate many low-skilled jobs in both advanced economies and emerging economies. But at the same time, it's creating lots of opportunities. We heard a taste of that today for the tourism sector, and we'll cover that later. And it's paving the way for new, different jobs, increasing productivity, and in many countries, improving the delivery of public services. And many children who are currently in primary schools will end up working in jobs when they're adults that we haven't even heard of yet. They don't even exist. So this report, it talks about the future of work, but it emphasizes the importance of human capital. So jobs today and many more in the near future will require a combination of skills. And the premium is rising, actually, for skills that cannot be replaced by robots. And I think we heard some good examples of these types of skills today from Cuauhtemoc and from Jeremy. So that the human capital element is still very important. And the responsibility for developing these skills is a shared one. It's shared, it lies with individuals, it lies with firms, and it lies with governments. So we're all responsible for ensuring that we have a skilled workforce that can make us productive and that can be an inclusive type of growth so that everyone benefits. So this slide is really showing how technology is disrupting how firms operate. So we've heard a bit about skills, and we'll hear a bit more later, but how is it impacting on firms? The changes are also bringing new policy challenges. And if we look at this diagram, it charts the rise of new so-called superstar firms, digital platforms that operate globally. And what we're seeing in this chart is we can compare the relative size of the operations of these new firms. They're shown by the blue bars. So the blue bars are the new platform firms, and we show them compared with their offline competitors. They're the orange bars. So if we look at even the middle one, which is Airbnb, that's a superstar technology platform that we've all heard of. And you'll show how in terms of share of rooms, it's completely outstripping, this is globally, hotel rooms compared with Marriott and Hilton. So you see that the share of the market in terms of rooms that Airbnb now has is huge. So, 40 million rooms for Marriott and Hilton compared to Airbnb with 100 million. The other superstar firms are a mobile financial transportation transaction service in Kenya, and the one on the right is a taxi company, online transportation service in China. Both of them are outstripping the traditional bank in Kenya and the licensed taxis in China. So technology is also, as we see, with these changes to companies, it's changing the demand for skills. And the share of occupations, the share of employment in occupations that demand high levels of non-routine cognitive, but also socio-behavioral skills is increasing in emerging and advanced economies. And the payoffs to these skills, so people that have these kinds of skills are at a high premium. So as well as changing how firms work, technology is also changing how people work, the way they work, and the terms on which they work. So even in advanced economies, short-term work, often found through these online platforms, is posing similar challenges to those faced by the world's informal workers, because long-term contracts are often being replaced by short-term work or zero-hours contracts, as we sometimes call them. Although it's important to remember that at the moment, numbers are still small. So less than 3% of the global labour force is actually a freelance worker. So things are changing, the way people work is changing, but it's happening slowly. And it's back to that combination of skills that people will need. Not only a combination, but the ability to bring all of those skills to bear when you're at work. Technological know-how, problem solving, critical thinking, as well as softer skills like perseverance, collaboration, and empathy. And these skills need to be continuously updated. The days of staying in one job, as we know, for a whole career is waning, and the new gig economy will mean that workers will likely have many gigs throughout their career, which means they'll have to be lifelong learners. So, yeah. So skilled people are essential to firms' ability to adapt and thrive in changing times. But still we know that only a minority of firms invest in training. These are global figures, but I wonder if it's the same in Jamaica. It's the same in most countries, that only certain firms are investing in training. And there are lots of reasons for this. You can see them on the slide. Like we heard of this fear of poaching. If I train, the worker's just going to move to another company's going to take them. Sometimes it's lack of management capacity. Managers are not aware of how human resources contribute to their growth and productivity. Sometimes it's a lack of information and support, or limited connectivity between firms and the TVET system. It can be a whole range of barriers. But then there are also lots of ways to address those challenges. So small companies, for example, often helped by a broker like a Chamber of Commerce or an industry federation, collaborate in group training networks. Sometimes special skills funds are set up to help kickstart training, and especially in smaller companies. Or sometimes larger companies encourage training or demand training and certain standards in their suppliers and down the supply chain. And that drives the training in small businesses. And the moves to, I'm sorry, I think I should have probably moved on a slide there. Yeah, but what I wanted to say before I leave this slide is the consequences of firms not training also have to be considered. And this was mentioned earlier also. So often if the human resource or the CEO in a company wants to do some training, the financial officer will say, what about the cost of this? And what happens if we train them and they leave? But what the HR director and the CEO should respond is, well, what happens if we don't train them and they stay? And also, Richard Branson's motto, apparently, train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to. So, it's this culture of investing in people, in companies is so important to push and drive, as well as upgrading the supply side, the TVET system. Really important to balance the two. So in terms of 21st century skills, probably most in this room have heard of this kind of concept. And the World Economic Forum, their new vision for education, describes these 21st century skills in 3 broad pillars: foundational literacies, competencies, and character qualities. Now, these are set out there. You can look at them when the slides are handed out later. But it's important to see that foundational literacies and competences are still there. You know, we talk about the importance of the character qualities and the attitudes. You still need the other skills, as we heard yesterday. And digital literacy features now as part of the foundational category. It's a given that people need these now to operate in today's economy and the society, actually. And as we mentioned yesterday, as we heard yesterday and we mentioned earlier today, today's candidates have to be able to collaborate, communicate, solve problems, and these are skills developed mainly through social and emotional learning. And these are the kind of skills combined with the more traditional skills that should equip students to succeed in the evolving economy. And according to the World Economic Forum, social and emotional learning also helps to lead to long-term benefits such as higher rates of employment and educational fulfillment. Now, as with any industry, tourism is experiencing radical change, and these trends that are happening in this sector have an impact on the skills required of people who work in the tourism sector. So the new digital economies demand skills like data analysis and management, web management, social media, these kind of skills. We have multicultural societies and workplaces now, and they require workers to have a knowledge of often foreign languages, history, knowledge of religious and dietary habits, cultural etiquette, and so on. The environmental moves, the drive to safeguard our environment, mean that workers need to know about sustainability and conservation, natural and cultural resource management, management of ecosystems. And workers are now expected to understand and cope with diverse groups of people. So aging populations, millennials, people with special needs, alternative families, and so on. So a whole range of trends are impacting the way that people need to prepare themselves for work. And the projection for tourism globally is that the supply of skills is not keeping up with the needs of employers. And we know that things are changing in the way that people, for example, the way that travelers source information on locations, the way they book accommodation. So they're now reaching for their phone, they have an app, they're not looking so much at the guidebooks or going into the travel agents. And so, you know, these are the kind of changes that we're all familiar with. And Jamaica's tourism market is changing too. As we heard from Dr. Wallace, you know, to complement Jamaica's traditional focus on the beach vacation model, and in response to changes in the global tourism marketplace, the government and the private sector are aiming to provide a more varied visitor experience through a more diverse range of product offerings, targeted at a wider group of visitors. And also to, as we heard earlier, a more inclusive tourism model that makes sure the benefits of tourism are spread more widely and create more entrepreneurship opportunities for families in the rural areas, for example. And homestays or peer-to-peer accommodation are rising in popularity globally. That's one of the big changes in the industry. So here we can see from this diagram how the peer-to-peer accommodation market is growing globally. This is an analysis of Airbnb arrivals in low and lower middle income countries. And you can see that, you know, it's been rising staggeringly in some areas. That it's been a kind of steady growth. It's not such a remarkable growth in the Latin America and Caribbean region, but it's been a steady growth nevertheless. Now, 10 years ago, this type of accommodation, this kind of Airbnb model, it was attractive mainly for younger, more budget-conscious travelers. But things have changed, and it's now become much more mainstream, and its offering is as diverse as traditional accommodation. So it's not just a room in someone's house anymore, the way it often started. It can be a luxury villa. You recognize some of these logos, no doubt. There are a range of peer-to-peer platforms operating in Jamaica. Airbnb is the largest player, but the second there is TripAdvisor Rentals. But, you know, these are growing, and what you notice in countries is people there are developing their own platforms. You know, Airbnb is a global player, but often, you know, the local platforms are springing up. But this shows that, you know, these are making it possible for somebody who has a spare room in a house to get into this tourism market. Just to show some of the changes, you might not be able to read that from here, but this is a job advert for, isn't it appropriate we're in the Hilton? It's a Hilton hotel management trainee in Shanghai. It's a job ad. We were comparing the 1986 advert to the 2018 one. So the 2018 advert still asks for the academic qualifications, still looking for a bachelor's degree, but front and center, the 2018 advert emphasizes those attitudes and behaviors we've been hearing about, the social and emotional skills that we heard about earlier. Again, this is just to make a point. A European research project surveyed employers, shown by the blue bars, and job seekers by the orange bars. They surveyed these people in the tourism sector to see what they thought the most important skills for work were. And actually, there's quite a lot of convergence in the rankings from employers and job seekers. And interestingly, coming out high is attitude, empathy, interpersonal skills. Not surprising for this sector. Now, this is the kind of evidence that the TVET system needs to keep itself up to date, but it needs local evidence. And I heard a great presentation yesterday from Dr. Gareth Phillips, the University of Technology in Jamaica. I don't know any of the rest of you heard this presentation, but he's starting to do some research on the impact of technological change on firms here in Jamaica, across all sectors, all sizes of firms. How is it impacting on their work, and what does that mean for the kind of people they need to recruit and train? So it's early stage research, but it's really interesting and the kind of thing that you really want to build on and help to inform the TVET system. So coming to the end there, this is just a slide about these different social and emotional skills. Those who are teachers and trainers in this audience will know that it's quite challenging to teach these kind of social and emotional skills. It's even harder to assess them. Some researchers say that a major teacher training and professional development need is to build the capacity of teachers to teach and assess 21st century skills. But there are some strategies, and this is just some from the World Economic Forum, to help teachers foster the competences and character qualities that a 21st century learner needs. And for TVET, there are some good examples. This wasn't aimed at TVET, but it can be adapted. So encourage practice-based learning, for example, and foster reflective reasoning and analysis. And I think, just to make the point, the ability of students to reflect on and articulate the skills they've learned is really important, especially for soft skills. Some research done by LinkedIn in partnership with the World Bank and other private sector partners showed that employers want these soft skills, but there's a skills signaling mismatch when it comes to soft skills. So, you know, soft skills are among the top 25% of skills that are posted by job vacancies, but they don't appear on any of the top 10 skills young people list in their profiles. So somehow or other, when we're teaching, we need to encourage young people in particular, but everyone, to evaluate what they've learned and to be able to articulate these softer skills. So just to wrap up then, I'll leave you with some quotes from the World Development Report. The point about human capital being important, because it's now the higher premium is on the people who are adaptable and have this combination of skills. The heartening point that robots are not going to replace everyone's jobs. They're going to change things, and some lower skill jobs will disappear, but it also is creating opportunities. And I think, the point that this is a responsibility of governments, individuals, and firms, and the three have to work together. And finally, this is not a one-off training or certification event. This has got to be a continuous process of lifelong learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I hope you agree with me that the depth of information that you've received from this esteemed panel was well worth us going a bit over time. To wrap things up quickly, I'm going to call on Giselle Jones from the Research and Risk Management Division in the TEF to do that. Please make her feel welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am not here to play God with my data. I am here to give the vote of thanks. So, let me start. In my minister's absence, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, I actually want to thank him. Even though JCTI is relatively new, even before we were joined at the hip with TVET per se, he has always been very, very supportive of HEART and other TVET providers, because certification is really tourism. It's very, very ingrained in tourism. And so I want to thank him. He had made sure that Carl Rose and myself were present on this planning committee, and really want to thank him for his vision and definitely his idea of strengthening the human capital through JCTI. I want to thank our Executive Director, Dr. Carey Wallace, for ably moderating the session, giving us that great overview and showing us exactly where it is that we fit in this huge tourism puzzle, and definitely set the stage for us to open today. I want to thank Dr. Cara Rose Brown from the JCTI, Director of the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation, for her candid delivery on exactly what it is we're dealing with when we talk about certification in tourism. I want to extend a special thank you to our partners, our honorary Jamaican brethren, Cuauhtemoc Novello, I hope I got that right, from the American Hotel and Educational Institute. All right. I showed you up. I'm so sorry, Doc. I also want to thank Chef Jeremy Abbey, even though he had to leave. And I want to remind you that we will be leaving promptly at 2 this afternoon to go and look at how they evaluate these culinary sessions. So please join us, leaving at 2 sharp, meeting in the lobby. I want to thank them for giving us that overview of certification and what that means in culinary and hospitality in general, especially when we could see the career path and that trajectory. A lot of times we're so caught up in only what we do that we forget that this is actually a path to prosperity. So I want to really thank them for that. And of course, last but most certainly not least, I want to thank Ms. Moira McKarracher of the World Bank, who came all the way from DC, and she's going all the way to Kosovo in a couple of days. So I'm really, really grateful that she was able to squeeze us in, and I welcome her to be a part of our 42% repeat tourism business. Yes. So thank you so much for accepting that invitation. And I mean, this presentation was lovely. It was a great global context. And as she did mention, we may not be there yet, but we can see what's coming. So I will join her in the challenge for us to, when we return, to just keep in mind what this is going to look like, and see how we fit in. What's the training that we can do from now? And also to encourage us to keep reading. It doesn't stop here. Keep your ears to the ground, keep looking at the social media, so that when the time comes, we're all ready. I want to also thank you guys for being such a lovely audience. I could see that y'all were very attentive. I didn't see anybody sleeping. I was looking for that. So thank you very, very much. Unfortunately, we are over time, so we won't have time for the Q&A, but we're welcoming you to join us at the booth if you do have any questions. And we will make the presentations available through the Secretariat. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation. We have some usual courtesies that we would now like to extend to you. To the JCTI Chairman, Dr. Carey, Wallace. Thank you. Thank you all. Just a few announcements, delegates. Some of you have not yet registered. Please go across the Secretariat and collect your name tags, your programs, your bags. They are still there. And for the study tours, if you registered online, you were not able to indicate the venue. You now need to go there and sign up so we can make some decision about the buses and where we go and how we organize the logistics. So just go across, sign up on the relevant list, whether you want to go to the free zone to hear about the global services sector, or to the convention center to see the practical examination in action, or you want to go to the Hart Falmouth campus to see TVET in action. So we really need to make a decision. I think we're going to merge the trip that's going to the Montego Bay Convention Center and the free zone, because when we checked earlier this morning, the numbers need to be put together, and it needs to be viable for us to have the bus and to hire the bus. So we will get the convention center is just across the road. So please go put your names down and get registered. Thank you.